He hadn't spoken to his brother in 12 years. Not because of hatred, not because of betrayal, but because of something far more stubborn: pride. It began with a business dispute. On paper, it looked small. Percentages, contracts, numbers that could have been solved with patience and humility. But pride has a way of turning small disagreements into lifelong fractures. Voices were raised, accusations were made, and at some point, silence felt easier than reconciliation. At first, the distance felt temporary. Weeks turned into months, months into years. Eventually, the original argument became fuzzy. He couldn't even remember who said what first, only that neither of them was willing to make the first move. Family gatherings became complicated. Birthdays were split. Holidays required negotiations. If one brother showed up, the other stayed away. Excuses became rehearsed. Work ran late. "I'm not feeling well." Their parents aged quietly under the weight of this division, careful never to say too much, afraid of pushing either son further away. Life kept moving, just not together. Then his daughter got engaged. She was his pride and joy. Thoughtful, gentle, the kind of young woman who believed people were more than their worst decisions. She carried empathy like a quiet strength, never loud, never demanding recognition. One evening, wedding plans scattered across the dining table. She paused and looked at him. "Dad, I want Uncle James there." The room felt smaller. He sighed slowly, already preparing his explanation. He told her about the past, about how some wounds don't heal, about how time doesn't always fix things. Sometimes it hardens them. He told her he didn't want her special day clouded by old tension. And then he said the sentence he'd been repeating for 12 years. "He won't come anyway." She listened without interrupting. When he finished, she reached across the table and gently took his hand. "Dad," she said softly, "I know it's hard, but I don't want to choose. I want my family whole." He tried again, tried harder, but she didn't argue, she didn't plead. She just looked at him, steady, calm, and said, "You won't know until you try." That night, after the house had gone quiet, he sat alone holding the wedding invitation. The weight of it felt heavier than paper. He wrote 3 drafts. The first was defensive, explaining his side, justifying the past. The second was emotional, too much history, too many words. The third tried to sound neutral, but even that felt dishonest. Frustrated, he tore them all up. In the end, he wrote just 2 sentences. "Sarah's getting married. I'd like you to be there. No apology, no explanations, no expectations, just an outstretched hand." Before sealing the envelope, he hesitated. Pride whispered that silence was safer. But something deeper stirred, a quiet nudge he hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long while, he prayed. Not for reconciliation, not for forgiveness, just for courage. "God, help me take this step, even if nothing comes of it." He mailed the invitation the next morning. Then came the waiting. Days passed. Then weeks. Every time his phone buzzed, his heart jumped, only to settle again when it wasn't the message he feared or hoped for. He told himself he didn't care, that he'd done his part. But late at night, the silence felt loud. His daughter asked once if there'd been a reply. He shook his head. Not yet. He didn't want her carrying his disappointment. 3 weeks later, 2 days before the wedding, his phone vibrated. A message from a number he hadn't saved, but knew instantly. "I'll be there." That was it. No explanation. No emotion. 5 words, carrying 12 years of distance. The wedding day arrived. The venue glowed with warmth. Soft music filled the air. Guests laughed. Joy lingered in every corner. As he greeted friends, his eyes kept drifting toward the entrance. Then he saw him, older, grayer, familiar in a way that hurt. His brother walked in quietly and took a seat near the back. No scene, no announcement, just presence. Their eyes met briefly. A nod, nothing more. They didn't rush toward each other. They didn't embrace, they didn't speak. But during the father-daughter dance, they found themselves standing side by side, watching her. This young woman, born after the fracture, raised in its shadow, smiling her way through the room, laughing freely, whole in a way neither brother had been for years. In that moment, pride felt small. After the applause faded, his brother cleared his throat and said 4 words, barely above a whisper. "We wasted 12 years. He swallowed hard. We did. No excuses, no blame. Just truth. They stood there in silence. Not awkward, not heavy, just honest. Something unspoken passed between them. A door cracked open, not fixed. Not healed, but open. Sometimes God doesn't force reconciliation. Sometimes he waits for humility to speak louder than pride. Sometimes he works quietly, through a daughter's courage, a simple invitation, and a heart finally willing to risk rejection. That night didn't erase the past, but it gave the future room to breathe. Moral of the story: reconciliation doesn't require perfection. It requires humility and the faith to take the first step, even when the outcome is uncertain. If this story touched you, take a moment to reflect. Is there someone God has been nudging you to reach out to? If so, type "first step" in the comments, like this video, and share it with someone who needs hope tonight.